Hi, I'm Peter Caldas, President and CEO of the American Society on Aging, and welcome to Season 5 of Future Proof, ASA's webcast with changemakers in aging. This season, Lisa Marsh Ryerson, President of AARP Foundation, joins us as guest host of 5 episodes exploring innovative approaches to fighting poverty with leaders in the community and how these approaches can build opportunity across generations. We're delighted to be partnering with AARP Foundation on this series as we launch a year of programming on advancing economic security and how it intersects with aging, equity, and innovation. We hope you enjoy this episode, and please join us all season long.
Hi, everyone. I'm so pleased to be back at Future Proof, an ASA podcast as a guest host, and especially delighted that today I have an opportunity to talk to a wonderful colleague in higher education and of AARP Foundation, Dr. Tamara Payne, who is the Director of Career and Learning Services at Jefferson State Community College and has worked with AARP Foundation since 2014, implementing our Back to Work 50 Plus program in the community of Birmingham, Alabama. Back to Work 50 Plus provides the training and coaching and job-seeking tools that older adults need to compete with confidence for today's in-demand jobs. And in 2016, Dr. Payne also worked with us in the community to help older women reconnect to the labor market through the Women's Economic Stability Initiative, a program that recent long-term evaluation has found to have a stronger impact on participant employment outcomes than the public workforce systems, and continues to inform the work of Back to Work 50 Plus. By cultivating important relationships within Jefferson State and with area employers, large and small, Dr. Payne and her team have been able to help older workers build their own relationships and professional networks and re-enter the workforce successfully. Dr. Payne, Tamara, it is just a huge delight to have an opportunity to see you and catch up with you about your work with Back to Work 50 Plus, but primarily as an expert in career development and learning across the life course. So happy to be with you. And Tamara, it might be a great place to start for you to talk with our listeners about your work at Jefferson State, and in particular, your work with Back to Work 50 Plus.
Okay, well, good morning, and thank you for having me here. In terms of my work with Jefferson State Community College, it entails working with workforce development programs. That includes wonderful initiatives such as Back to Work 50 Plus, adult education, non-credit training programs, and WIOA, and locally we call it CAFD youth grant programs. So essentially things that have to do with continuing education, and pursuing secondary education for students that happen to be stop-outs or dropouts.
You know, one of the reasons why I wanted you to be with me is absolutely what you just shared, which is that you're an expert and are building and implementing programs across the learning life course and across the age continuum. Yes. So when you talk about your work with youth development, as well as your work with us and with other adults in the communities around acquiring credentials and learning to be able to have successful work as individuals age. Talk to me about what you found about successes for students in terms of the types of programs that are supportive for their learning and how they co-enroll, in essence, across opportunities at Jefferson State.
Okay, well, I will say one of the things that we found throughout the course of working with Back to Work 50 Plus through some of the research that we've done locally and then looking at best practices nationally is that cohort models do work if they're implemented appropriately. And cohort models work if individuals are allowed to mingle together and realize that they have some commonalities, so that it's not just the coach that's providing support. They're allowed and guided to work together to provide a supportive network for each other.
I think that's so important, Dr. Payne, and I want to talk about that a bit more because what you're really talking about is the power of coaching, which is so important in terms of returning to the workforce with meaningful, purposeful work at wages that are family sustaining as well. But you brought up this other topic, which is learning community and cohorts. And I think I hear you saying helping participants in those cohorts tap into their own resiliency and be mentors for one another. Is that what you find occurs?
Yes. I find that sometimes it occurs when the coach is there to facilitate it. But what we do love is when it kind of occurs organically. Is that they're kind of just, they see each other, that look across the room, and you realize while you yourself are a unique individual, that your situation isn't as unique as you thought, because there's someone across the room from you experiencing the same thing at the very same time. And then there's some type of kinship that is established because of that. So I think something that you've told yourself, that positive self-talk, or maybe a resource that you've utilized that that person across the room could benefit from. And sometimes there's comfort in just knowing there's at least one more person in the same situation, even if we don't necessarily connect physically. At least I know you're there.
I think, again, this is such an important learning that I would want our colleagues across multiple sectors to hear, that the investment in building a learning cohort for older adult job seekers and the investment in coaching is so powerful, because often I have found, Tamara, and you could speak to this, that it is that hesitancy for older adults and older women in our Women's Economic Stability Program to join in because they lack confidence. They've been locked out of opportunities. They've lost work. And I believe I hear you saying it's those sparks between I see you, you see me, those powerful human connections that are occurring in the learning groups.
Yes, and you cannot put a value on those human connections. The coaching provides that much needed wraparound support, because it goes on a model of looking at not just the academic needs of the individual, but looking at their physical needs, their social needs, their mental needs, and also the needs of being a part of a community. So that is one of the things that's unique about their approach to Back to Work 50 Plus, and also unique about some of the programs that Jeff State has implemented. Jeff State has a program called Jeff State Coaches, and Jeff State Coaches are ones who are paying a little bit more attention to our students to make sure that those wraparound supports are needed. Do you need a referral for services because you're having difficulty paying your rent or mortgage? Do you need a referral for services because you're having difficulty establishing adequate childcare? Do you need services because transportation is an issue? So do we need to connect you with adult ed because they can assist with bus vouchers or with a rideshare program? So it's looking at all the reasons or all the barriers that exist and may potentially exist. And back to
it's the best of human-centered design, Tamara, that you're leading when I hear you talk about our program, our joint work together. But I just honor you and all of our leaders in Back to Work 50 Plus, because it isn't actually the norm in all credentialing or reentry to education programs across higher education, because it takes a true investment and commitment in new human-centered models. What has been your success? How have you had this buy-in across the community college, across the higher ed network in Birmingham, and also the workforce network? Is it because of the great outcomes, or how did you build the relationships?
I would say it's a mixture of. One of the things that helps first and foremost is the fact that Jeff State has been a staple in the community for over 50 years.
Yes.
So when there's a community college in your back door, and the community college regularly has outreach activities that extend beyond the typical college student, then that you do have a certain reputation in the community. So definitely, I fell into a lucky position ending up in Jeff State that, again, has had such a wonderful relationship with the community.
Because they're a known neighbor in Birmingham. Great.
Yes. Second thing that has been extremely beneficial is More than 10 years ago, the Department of Labor and community colleges started to partner, where there's a Department of Labor representative that may be based at all campuses of a select community college or one particular campus. So we have had a strong partnership with the Alabama Department of Labor for over 13 years. And that has helped us establish those invaluable employer connections. So when we're reaching out to employers, we're not just reaching out saying we're Jeff State, we're reaching out saying we're Jeff State, a partner with the Department of Labor. So you're getting the training element, and Department of Labor, provides the WIOA funding. So you're getting a funding source. So it's kind of that whole one-stop shop approach. So those two things have been very valuable in terms of us being able to network with employers to assist our Back to Work 50+ candidates in every special population that we work with.
I think, again, to me, it is about what you and I know, which is to build evidence, to really have outcomes, meaning meaningful employment, as you and I keep saying, with family sustaining wages and opportunities for advancement. That requires the best strategic partnership. So when you're talking about embedding a liaison from the Department of Labor at the college and in your work, it also means that you have connections with employers who are looking to hire people and who already know the benefit of hiring older adult workers, and then can work with you and your team and your coaches to, in essence, build the coaching curriculum, and to connect with the courses or the learning curriculum in a more fulsome way.
Yes, I totally agree. And even if it is an employer that doesn't necessarily have as much experience, they're a small employer with hiring Back to Work 50+ workers. One of the things that we're very big on, Jeff State, is that we're not going to introduce something to you that we haven't tried ourselves. So we actually hired some of our Back to Work 50+ candidates. Two of my assistants.
Thank you.
Yes, two of my assistants, we actually met in the 7 Smart Strategies cohort. So when we're talking to employers about hiring older workers, we can also talk about how we have utilized older workers in administrative positions, instructional positions, maintenance and landscaping positions. So we've utilized them in 3 different facets at Jefferson State Community College. So we're not just saying, do this because we said so, and because AARP said so. We're saying, let's talk about the value of older workers, let's dispel some myths, and let's discuss how Jeff State has implemented what we're trying to get you to do.
This is why you are a valued partner in the Back to Work 50+ program and leadership circle for AARP Foundation, Tamara, because it is so critically important. I mean, you walk the talk. That's what you're sharing with me. And you have helped us, as you know, but it's important for me that our listeners know that you and your team help AARP Foundation's team be stronger. You are all of the experiences and the experiential learning and just the testing and learning environment that we share together. But it's a powerful whole person experience for the participants in Back to Work 50+. And I mean, as someone who is an educator, as you are, I want all other workforce programs, learning systems, whether it's community colleges or other higher education environments, to know that it's important to adopt the model of coaching and connections. Because with just the learning credential, you and I know that is often not enough to build the support network that older workers need to find employment.
Exactly, because there are so many other factors. Again, as we talked about, the physical, the social, even financial.
Yes.
Learning how to plan, learning how to budget. And we found that a lot of our Back to Work 50+ candidates are in the process of reinventing themselves at an age where they thought that they'd be preparing for retirement.
That's right.
Individuals that found themselves as new parents again. We've had individuals that found themselves rearing their grandchildren or great grandchildren. individuals that found themselves divorced and being displaced from their homes, or being forcibly downsized, having to dip into their retirement to pay their bills, and those that their skills have become obsolete. So with that, there is that whole, sometimes there is an air of sadness or depression
Yes.
that comes along with that. So you do have to address all of those issues, because they can rear its head when somebody's
Yes.
trying to find gainful employment.
Well, and it is really, as you're saying, it's the well-being aspects. This is about physical as well as mental and emotional well-being for participants. You've raised such an important point, is that in society, we tend to continue to carry this mythology that people acquire the knowledge or learning or skills training that they need. They go into this period of work in their life and raising their families, and then they head into retirement where they no longer have financial worries. But that isn't the norm, and it hasn't been for a long time. And you're reminding me that for so many people in our communities, life does not go as planned. And this is not through any fault of our program participants in Back to Work 50 Plus. But when you lose work, you lose income.
You do.
But your bills don't stop coming.
Mm-hmm.
And caring for your family doesn't stop. So it is whole person engagement and support that you and your team are providing. In addition to your connection with us and with the Department of Labor, are there other community resources or organizations, Tamara, that have been especially helpful as you built out the network of support for Back to Work 50 Plus?
Yes. So in terms of physical health, we partner with local YMCAs that offer a Silver Sneakers program.
Wonderful.
Yes, so individuals can come in and walk and exercise and do activities with other individuals that are 50 and older, and they typically do activities free or sliding scale fee just based on your income. And so we do have YMCAs that are central to our primary campuses that deal with Back to Work 50 Plus. In terms of mental health, we partner with 4 local community health care centers. And we partner with 4 because we have 4 campuses. So we want to make sure that if someone contacts us from either campus, that we do have a resource.
And they have a local resource.
Exactly. And these mental health centers, same thing, they're usually, depending on the income of our individual, anywhere from free to a sliding scale fee. And the great thing about them is that they provide in-person services, teledoc services, and they do have some that actually do home visitation. And in another life, I was a mental health counselor. So one of the things that I kind of try to be attuned to is the different ways that you can introduce mental health services without it having some type of stigma associated.
That's right.
So one of the things that I do tell our candidates is that as a former mental health counselor, most of the counselors I knew, including myself, we had someone that we had to debrief with.
Yes.
So just because you're talking to a counselor doesn't mean that there's an underlying mental illness. It may mean that you need an outlet, and you may not have that familial support to be an outlet. So we talk about the different ways that you can utilize a counselor without the fear of a diagnosis or people feeling stigmatized.
It is so, I mean, that is, I want to have you back for an entire conversation about the stigma that we have in society around mental health, which we must reverse that direction, as you're saying. And you know that by virtue of your academic training and your practice. And it is gratifying for me to know that you take that part of your experience and training and pull it forward into Back to Work 50 Plus. One thing you and I know for sure is that we have to get rid of the stigma, and that depression, anxiety, and mental well-being challenges have increased during this pandemic. And so we have to be right out front of that and create that coaching and learning community environment where our participants can share everything that's going on in their lives and get the supports that they need. So important, so important. Just another example of why it is so wonderful, really awesome for me and for AARP Foundation to have you as a leader in our Back to Work 50 Plus program. And what a gift to the Birmingham educational and greater community as well, Tamara, to have you pulling together the resources, because not only are we empowering participants in Back to Work 50 Plus and in all of your career and learning development programs, but these are gifts to the community. We all suffer when we discount or subtract the contributions of older adults to our communities and to our workforces as well. Those multi-generational workforces are so important, we know, to benefit employers and to benefit community. Is there any one story from Back to Work 50 Plus that sticks in your mind that you might want to share?
You know, there are definitely a couple of different stories. One story in particular, we had someone that had been a hairstylist for a number of years. And you know, with the customer service industry, when you're relying on customers to come in and come out, sometimes it can be booming. And then
sometimes not.
Exactly. And so,
which means that person did not have steady income.
Exactly. And what this person did was they eventually transitioned to become an instructor. And that's a leap of faith, becoming an instructor, and the school closed down.
Oh my goodness.
And so it left the person without a client base, because you let your client base go to become an instructor, and then the school closes down. And it was one of those school closures that happened really spur of the moment. You know, you went to work Monday, Friday, the state's like, no.
So no income immediately.
And this person was still in the midst of rearing children, teenagers. So the individual found out about Back to Work 50 Plus. And part of what we do is, when we talk to you about a career change, we talk about your personality. We do some personality assessments, but I have found sometimes with our 50 and older individuals, they know a little bit more about themselves. So we can supplement with assessments, but yes, nothing works better than sitting down and having a candid conversation.
Getting to know them.
Exactly. So we talked about the fact that she was an extrovert, talked about the fact that she always wanted to be a nurse, and what things we could do to utilize both that extroverted personality she had and that love she had for healthcare, and always wanting to work in the healthcare field.
Caring for others is a passion, clearly.
And so we actually put her through a certified medical assistant training with assistance from AARP Foundation. And she is a certified medical assistant. And she's been a certified medical assistant for the better part of about 2.5, 3 years now. And she loves it. And periodically she'll drop me an email and it'll just say, thank you so much. Just want you to know I'm doing well. And one of the things that she and I get a kick out of is that she said before, you know, she would always try to give her family healthcare advice. And she was like, sometimes I knew what I was talking about. Sometimes I tried to do research. And she says now, you know, when they go to the doctor and they're tossing around medical terminology, if they don't know what it means, I can say, this is what this means, or ask your doctor or ask your nurse about this. And she's more on top of things. So that is one of the success stories we have.
I love that story. I love that story, Tamara, because it is everything about the program and the possibility that we built together with coaching and connections. Starts with the person. As you said, we start with listening. Hear someone, hear what their strengths are, what their dreams are, what their barriers are. Build a coaching and connections and educational program that meets all of those needs, and the support network. And she is now tapped into what she always wanted to do, and using all the lessons from previous careers.
Exactly. And you can't put a value on
no.
skills. And that's one of the things that we look at when we're talking about retraining our Back to Work 50 Plus candidates. We want to look at fields that are definitely in demand. We want to look at fields that have always captured their interest. But we also want to look at fields where those soft skills are invaluable, because that's something that can set you apart. You can't put a dollar value on common sense.
You cannot put a dollar value on it. Well, I want to wrap up by thanking you, and for everyone viewing and listening to us, you can absolutely see why I, as the president of AARP Foundation, and my entire team are fortunate, are really honored to have you, Dr. Tamara Payne, as a member of our team and a leader in higher education and community development, taking such great care of older adult workers who need support. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And we have enjoyed and will continue to enjoy our wonderful partnership with AARP Foundation.
More great work ahead together.
Yes.
I hope you join us next week as Senior Vice President of AARP Foundation Litigation, Bill Rivera, joins in a conversation with Shriver Center on Poverty Law's President and CEO, Audra Wilson. They'll be talking about systemic solutions to poverty through legal advocacy and how organizations of all types can and must support.